Hello, I'm finishing a set of videos about probabilities and resource analysis and distributions in hydro, um, wind, and solar. And my theory is, number one, my point is, I think it's good to look at all of them together first. Second, the probabilities and the distributions that happen after the COD, after we know what happens, are very different than before the COD. It's the second point. The third point, maybe there's no third point, I said, is kind of the availability of data and what we'll see. With wind, we saw, frankly, it wasn't quite as clear as I wanted. Some had very low variations, and other had a little more, and there were stories behind them. Hydro, we'll see a lot. We'll see a lot of mean reversion and a lot of variability. Now, this first one I'm showing, this first dam is the Glen Canyon Dam. It's a large dam in the state of, I believe it's on the Colorado River. I think it's Utah and whatever. I've worked on this dam and I've never visited. I've worked on it for years. But we see the distribution and we see an average, standard deviation to average quite high. We have a missing year, which doesn't matter because we used the COUNTIF. Remember, I hope you remember this, okay? And, this whole COUNTIF, I think I'm going to try to correct this. So we put maximum of COUNTIF for this, or 1, just so we cap it. It can't be below 1, all right? Otherwise, it'll just be the COUNTIF. My silly, I'm embarrassed about my coding. So you recall, if you didn't see the earlier videos and you only care about hydro, well, there's probably about none of you who are like that, but this time we were able to copy about 1,800 different facilities in, and many of the facilities had data all the way back through 1970. Maybe that's another point I really wanted to make. So we get a better idea of really what the variability is. And another point about hydro is crucial. In the hydro, we don't know. The exercises that I will take you through, or whatever, that you can look at when we take a distribution of water over the year, demonstrate that the volume of hydro over the course of a year can just a certain amount can be used, and sometimes you might want to use everything, and there's a quite wide distribution, and sometimes you might want to make a very small turbine in a very big river, and in that case your capacity factor will be 100% and your distribution will be very, very, very small. So that's the final thing about hydro. Now let's look at some of the hydro projects that we wanted to look at. I didn't. What does that mean? Another one with about 30%. I'm just going to do the same sort of thing. 33%, 27%, all with some pretty high probabilities. Oh my gosh, 57%, 31%, 28%. You can actually, this is so far, it's being more consistent. Whoops, we had one with a really low one. I don't know what this really was. And So you can get some, there's some outliers, but it's kind of interesting what happens here. Okay. I think I want to make perhaps one more analysis here. And this is, let's take plants that were in California or I don't think I'm going to make another thing, but let's go to data and filter and take just plants, and I'm going to look at some projects in Washington State. And I'm going to particularly focus on the projects in Washington State, and we have some projects really starting with this code number, and we can look at kind of the distribution of some of these projects. All right, and we have this was 1.4 million. We have a really big project here of 1.4 million called this is called Grand Coulee, whatever that is. We can look at this one, and the thing I'm really interested in this one is what happened here, somewhere here during the year 2000. It doesn't actually look all that dramatic. We'll see, maybe it's around here. Now, if you wanted to quickly make a graph of this, I think you can press Shift Control right arrow, Shift F8, and then be very careful not to screw around with the mouse, and then you can go. Again, this you have to do with the mouse. You can't use any of your. You can't use any of your shortcut keys. Okay, and this was the famous kind of area around the California crisis. It's confirming. It's confirming some of the issues. All right. Let's let's look around the Northeast. I think there's a state called Oregon that you can look at as well. And perhaps some of this stuff, obviously, obviously, I don't know if it did or not. It might have come from Canada or something as well. So we can look at these projects in Oregon. There's another really big, oops. No, this is still our California, Oregon one. And then finally, let's see if there are any really big ones in California itself. Okay, I don't know. Perhaps there was something in Idaho or something like that, but I think we'll kind of have the big ones here. So now let's just press F11 again, and we still have by far the biggest one here, and another one for 800,000. I'm sorry. Okay, I just had a little embarrassing moment that I couldn't leave in the video. Let's not get into that, perhaps. Perhaps that's better for me to leave out. So now this 1076 plant was another big one. And what you could do, I should have realized this, I'm going to open the generic macros just for a minute. And watch me not have it even in my little list here. I haven't opened it for a day. Oh no! Oh no! Shift Control C. So this is an input. Okay, it looked like the final date was an input too. I don't want to do that. I can press Shift Control C. We don't have really any inputs here. All right. And This was one of the large plants, and it was just, no, it wasn't. It wasn't. There was another, that was a Wisconsin one. The other one was, oh, come on. Okay, well, I can't find it now. That's going to be too bad. But let's just look at this plant again, and you can see in around the year 2000 and 2001 we have this dip. Now it wasn't maybe this in 2001 we had a really low kind of production that's related to the financial crisis or the California crisis. In fact, the 7,000 looks like a P90 something level. Okay, and now let's remember the other project. I've got to pause. This was, I guess, 1208. So all we do is put 1208 here. That was the row number. And this, I think, was even larger. Right here we can see the problem in the year 2001. Maybe it's not interesting to you, and it's interesting to me. And again, you can see that this number, I don't know what that number is, I can't read it. Come on. Okay, whatever. Enough of this. I'm going to stop the video. I hate wasting your time. Okay, but that's the hydro, and here's where it's going to be. Okay. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. There we are. And I haven't really finished the hydro analysis. We're going to make this, by the way, I'm going to just, I've got a little picture here, and this is a duration analysis. You need daily. I don't think you can really do it with monthly. I'm sure you can't. And this is the capacity. So down here, you're running at 100%. No, up here, rather, you're running at 100% capacity. Down here, it's less than 100% capacity. That's the kind of idea of making a hydro distribution analysis. And then, so there'll be a hydro. It says wind here still. Sorry, I'll fix that. But that's where you can find the file. That was a little embarrassing. Okay. And this, interestingly enough, this had a fairly small distribution, and then we can look at some of the other ones, but they seem to be in the, whoops, 25, 38, 11, 70, oh my gosh, okay, some of these aren't quite as good as the others. But this is also showing you what I hope to do with the wind and the solar one day. And with the wind and the solar, once we look at the area, we should start getting much more comfortable and much more consistent kind of results. Oops, I just saw, just a minute. Minidoga. No, this is not. I thought that's where my sun lives. Okay, that's the hydro analysis. It seems that we have a little more variability on this one later on. So I'm now finished with some of this historic production. I wish it would have given me a little more data on the solar and a little more consistency on the wind. But we'll see as we gradually are able to update some of this data. So goodbye.